time. I'm so glad that you came back again this week. I've got some really fun stories, and I've got a couple that are about some people doing some pretty silly things. And I hope that you aren't quite as silly as some of the people that are in our stories this week, but I hope that you think they're funny anyway. Should we get started? Here we go. Clap your hands if you love stories. Clap your hands, I know you do. I'm so glad that we could be together. Glad to share a story time with you. Tell me something, boys and girls. You look like a pretty smart bunch. Can you count? If I asked you to, could you count to 8 with me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pretty good. Can you see that I have 8 little men here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very good. Now keep your eye on these little men, because the story I have might have a little bit of a trick. So once upon a time, there were 8 silly men who decided they were going to go fishing for the day. And they went down to the lake, and they were wading in and out of the deep water, throwing their nets and catching fish. And there were a lot of fish. They spent all day throwing their nets in the water and then dragging them out and catching lots and lots and lots of fish. And it was hard work, and the water was pretty deep, but that just meant that there were all the more fish, and they worked very hard. And when they were just about done, they were wiping the water off their faces and wiping the sweat off of themselves, and they said, "Phew, that was an awful lot of work. And it was kind of deep too. Wouldn't it be an awful thing," they said, "if one of us drowned and we didn't even know it?" And they said, "Yes, that would be a terrible thing. How would we know?" And they said, "Well, when we came, there were 8 of us. So why don't we count and see that there are still 8? And so they stood in a line, just like this. And one of them stood out and said, "Now I shall count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are only 7 of us." And another of the men said, "That's terrible. Let me try. Let me double check." And he stood out and he said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are only 7 of us. A third man stepped out and said, "Let me just double check again. Let me count." And he said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can only see 7 men. Boys and girls, have you figured out what they were doing wrong yet? A fourth one came along and he said, "Let me count." And he took his turn. He stood out here and he counted. And he said, "I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One of us must have drowned." And they were so upset. But just about this time, another man came along. This man was not a silly man. He was a pretty smart man. And he said, "Why do you guys look so upset?" And they explained, 8 of us came to fish today, but no matter which one of us counts now, we can only count 7 people. The smart man was just like you. He was smart enough to know what they were doing wrong. The person who was doing the counting was never counting themselves. And so he thought, and he said, "If I can find the 8th man and save him, will you give me your fish? And they said, oh, we will give you all of the fish we caught today. Only please help us figure out which one of us is missing and help us save him. And he said, all right, I want you all to stand in the line and let me count one more time. And he said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have found him. You are all here. And they were so grateful that they gave him all of their fish. And he went away. And they never did figure out what they did wrong. Okay, you guys were really good at counting with me in that last story. So now let's see how far we can all count. Let's do this finger play together. Get your fingers ready. You ready? I can count. Want to see? Here are my fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This hand is done. Now I'll count the other one. 6, 7, 8, and 9. Just one more. I'm doing fine. The last little finger is number 10. Now I'll count them all again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job. Let's do that one more time. Get ready. I can count. Want to see? Here's my fingers. Did you get them? 4 and 5. This hand's done. Now I'll count the other one. 6, 7, 8, and 9. Just one more. You're doing fine. The last little finger is number 10. Can you count them all again? I bet you can. The second story I have today is about a fox who thinks he's pretty clever. He thinks he's the smart one in the story. We'll just have to see if he really is. So one day, the fox decided that he needed something really good to eat for dinner. He didn't have anything in his house, but he thought he could come up with a plan that would get him something really yummy. So he went out and he caught a bumblebee. And when he'd caught that bumblebee, he put it into a sack, a big bag, and he carried it down the road until he came to a farmhouse and knocked on the door. And when he knocked on the door, a farm wife answered and she said, "Yes, how can I help you?" And he said, "I would like to ask a favor. You see, I need to go and visit a friend, but I need a safe place to put my sack. Could I leave it here?" And she said, "Of course you can." And the fox said, "Only one thing. Whatever you do, please don't open the sack to see what's inside." And then he left. Well, after he said that, the farm wife's curiosity grew and grew until she could not help herself. She had to know what was inside that sack. And so she untied it, and out flew the bumblebee right away, into the air, around and around, right into the farmyard where a rooster was. And the rooster, swallowed it down. Well, when the fox came back, he saw that his bag was empty, and he said, "What happened here?" And the farm wife said, "I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. I opened it up, and I'm afraid my rooster got your bumblebee." And he said, "How awful! That bumblebee was to be my dinner. I'm afraid now I shall have to take your rooster." And he took her rooster, and he put it in the sack and left. Well, he wandered down the road a little further until he came to another house and knocked on the door. And when the woman answered, he said the same thing. "I need a favor. I'm going to visit a friend, and I need a safe place to leave my sack. Could I leave it here?" And after she agreed, he said, "Only whatever you do, make sure, do not open the sack. Don't look to see what's inside." But the same thing had happened as before. If you tell someone not to look what's inside a sack, sometimes it gets just that much harder to not look. And as soon as that woman opened the sack, out ran the rooster right into the farmyard where the woman's old pig was. And the pig oinked a mighty oink and chased that rooster right away. When the fox came back, he saw his empty sack, and the woman explained, "I'm really sorry, Mr. Fox. You told me not to open it, but I did, and I'm afraid my pig chased your rooster away." And he said, "Oh no, I was going to have that rooster for dinner. Now I guess I have to take your pig." And he put that pig in the sack and carried it away. on down the road to the next farmhouse where he knocked. And a farmer answered the door, and the fox said the same thing. "Mr. Farmer, I would like to ask a favor. I need to go and visit a friend, but I need someone to keep an eye on my sack. Would you watch my sack for me?" And the farmer said, "Of course I will." And the fox said, "But whatever you do, please don't open the sack to see what's inside." And so he did. The farmer was busy with his chores, and he wasn't paying too much attention to the sack, actually, but the farmer's son was, the little boy. And the little boy opened the sack because he saw it wiggling around on the floor, and out jumped the pig and ran away. Well, when the fox came back, he saw the empty sack and said, "What happened?" And the farmer said, "I'm afraid my son opened your sack and your pig ran away." And the fox said, "Very well. Since your son let my dinner escape, I will have to take your son." Well, the farmer was very upset, but before he could stop him, the fox took the little boy, popped him in the sack, and carried him on down the road, where he came to another house, where an old grandmother was watching her grandkids. And he said to her, "Could I leave my sack here? I'm going down to visit a friend, and I need somewhere safe to leave this." And the old woman said, "Of course you may." And the fox said, "But whatever you do, do not open the sack to see what is inside." And off he went. Well, the sack lay in the corner of the kitchen. The old woman, you see, was making cookies. And when they came out of the oven, all of the grandkids scrambled and called, "Can I have a cookie? Can I have a cookie?" And from the sack in the corner came another little voice, "And can I have a cookie too?" Well, the old woman quickly ran over and opened the bag, and out climbed the little boy. And she figured out what was going on. And so after the little boy had climbed out of the sack, the old woman went and got her big, mean dog and said, "Dog, get in the sack. And when the fox lets you out, you take care of him." Well, the fox came back after a while, and he was surprised to see that his bag was just as he had left it, tied up and with a very, very heavy weight in the bottom. And so he thanked the old woman, took the sack over his shoulder, and made his way back home, where he thought that he would have a wonderful little boy for dinner. He stoked his fire up high, set his pot of water to boil, and when he was ready, he untied that bag. But instead of a little boy, out jumped a mean, angry, barking, growling dog. And the fox yipped, and the dog jumped. And we will never know for certain whether that dog got a big bite of fox or just a little bite of his tail. But one thing is for certain. That's the end of our tale. Okay, so it's September now, and a lot of boys and girls have started school, except school's kind of funny this year, isn't it? It looks a little different for a lot of boys and girls who aren't actually going to the school. So right now, if this were any other year, I might ask if any of you are riding a school bus to get to school, and maybe a few of you still are. So we're just gonna pretend, and we're gonna sing the Wheels on the Bus anyway, okay? All right, here we go. If you have any shaky eggs or any kind of sticks you wanna click, that's fine. Or if you just wanna help me make the noises or move your arms, clap your hands, that's cool too. We know this song. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all through the town. The doors on the bus go open and shut, open and shut, open and shut. The doors on the bus go open and shut, all through the town. What do the wipers do? The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 swish. The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 all through the town. What do the windows do? The windows on the bus go up and down, up and down, up and down. The windows on the bus go up and down, all through the town. The people on the bus go bumpity bump, right? The people on the bus go bumpity bump, bumpity bump, bumpity bump. The people on the bus go bumpity bump all through the town. The driver on the bus says, move on back. The driver on the bus says, move on back, move on back, move on back. The driver on the bus goes, move on back all through the town. You know what the babies do. Do it nice and loud, okay? The babies on the bus go wah, 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 wah. The babies on the bus go wah, 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 all through the town. The mommies on the bus go shh, 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 shh. The mommies on the bus go shh, 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 all through the town. Well, I had a really good time with you guys again this week. And I really hope that you're having a nice fall. The weather's getting kind of nice outside, not so hot. I don't know about you, but I'm spending a lot of time going outside for walks. And you know what? The other day, some boys and girls that were out in my neighborhood saw me and said, "Do you work at the library?" Has it really been that long since we've all been in the library together, recognizing each other and getting to see each other face to face? I feel like when we next see each other, we're going to have to introduce ourselves all over again. But if you see me when I'm out taking a walk somewhere, make sure you say hi, and I'll make sure I say hi back, okay? For now, get a big stretch. Let me see you. Reach for the ceiling and touch the floor. Stand up again. Let's do some more. Touch your head and now your knees up to your shoulders. Like this, you see, big stretch. Reach for the ceiling and touch the floor. That's all there is. There isn't any more. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.